Hello guys, good evening. I hope everybody is doing well. So I welcome one and all to our today's lecture. Apologies, I got a minute late here. I'm really sorry for that. Uh, so uh, so as per our agenda, we're gonna be discussing about the remaining plots of Seaborn, right? We had a really good session yesterday where we discussed about multiple other plots. We discussed about how we're gonna plot number to number, number to categorical plots. So remember, right? Multiple plots we discussed in yesterday's class. So guys, again, I encourage if anybody has any questions from our previous lectures or anywhere else, do feel free to ping out your question, right? So if you won't ask your questions, it becomes difficult to understand them, right? I mean, if you're able to understand it, that's really well enough. So I hope I'm doing the good job then. But again, if anybody has any doubts, do feel free to put up your question in the chat box, right? So I'm monitoring it. So I'll try to answer it to the best of my knowledge. Cool. But again, before that, let's have a quick introduction, and I'll run you through the steams. As you know, guys, my name is Arpit Jain, and I'm a senior data scientist myself. I have almost 9 years of industry experience, and I'm a motivational speaker as well. So I take career sessions. I talk about people. I talk to people regarding their career advice. So I do those things as well. So if you have any questions regarding your career, regarding data science or irrelevant profile and whatever things, whatever doubts we generally have, right? So if you want to talk about them, so do feel free to put up your questions in the chat box. I'll try to take it to the best of my knowledge. Okay. As part of our playlist, the subjects which we're gonna take are Python, SQL, data science. So Python we started already a couple of months back, and also we have started SQL about a month back, and now we are into data science. So in data science, we'll be talking about data science with Python. So I'm trying to introduce you to interesting new topics every other day, and then I'm trying to club it with Python. So basically, for example, right now we are doing visualization, right? So I'm not only talking about the type of graphs we have, rather showing it to you how you can implement it on Python, right? So I believe that's a better way of learning. But again, if anybody has any other things or any other point which they want me to cover, so do feel free to put up your question in the chat box, and then I'll try to accommodate them as part of our content. So I'm totally flexible with that. Cool. So that's part of our subjects as we have planned. There are certain other subjects also which is in pipeline, like Tableau. We have something on PySpark coming up. So that is all once we have at least a few set of things finished, or we have at least come to a common conclusion that now we can move ahead. So we can try to include some other things as well. But right now, guys, as you know, we have a screen. We have a code right in front of a screen. Which is Python 10. And if you're going to use this code Python 10, you are going to get a free Relevel sample test paper, guys, right? So time for a quick promotion, as you know this, so please bear with me for this, and I'll be quick to finish this up. So now you understand many times candidates do miss out on the great opportunities due to multiple reasons. Most of the times they don't have the right or a better degree, or not having the right networking, so not knowing the right people to get a referral from the jobs, or the resumes with which the candidates are applying for their jobs are not standing out. So because there are 100 other applicants for the same job, so there is something which might be missing on your resume, or maybe some other external factors which you really can't control. Also, you're applying for a number of jobs, but still you're not getting even a single interview call, right? So very practical issues. But again, this is very normal, and it's very common. So to tackle such problems, a Relevel has been introduced by Unacademy. It's the India's first test hiring platform, which is actually helping the job seekers find their dream jobs. And here you are purely based on your skills and your talent, and nothing beyond that. So you're not dependent upon any sort of degree, or any networking which you need from the people. It's purely on your skills and the talent, right? So How technically this works, it's a test hiring platform where you are expected to go through an assessment. So you'll have to first choose the platform which you want to be part of. There are like certain platforms which are available. So once you have selected that, you'll be going through an assessment, and the entire Relevel platform assessment Relevel score is purely based on your assessment marks, right? So once you have given the test, based on your score, you'll be approached by the companies, that is the hiring companies, and that's how it works. So it's not at all dependent on your degree or your networking, purely on the marks which you are scoring in your assessment. There are certain other benefits involved if you become one of the participants in the Relevel platform. I'll brief out to you some. Like there are at least 50 plus companies hiring directly from the Unacademy, this Relevel platform, and these include the top startups and even the unicorns like Ernst& Young, Cred, Upgrad, Razorpay, Urban Company, and many more. And there are at least 1,000 plus open job positions across majorly three portfolios right now: business, front end, and the back end development. Also, this is completely online, guys, so you're not supposed to be physically present anywhere to be part of this. So you can take this from the comfort of your home. Also, the best part is, guys, this is completely free, so you're not supposed to pay even a single penny to register yourself or to attend the test and all that. So it's completely free. It's a beta platform. There might be a few charges later on, but it's here now. Right now, it's completely free. As I've said, there will be multiple rounds of assessment. The only expectation from you right now is to finish the entire the multiple rounds in a single day, and that day could be of your choice. So that's the only expectation from you, right? And based on your score, guys, you will be actually getting an opportunity to stand out from the crowd. So if you're able to score really good marks, so that's the only criteria. You'll be standing out from the crowd, and something that stands out definitely gets noticed by the companies, right? And also the good thing is that you can take this test a number of times, but the only thing is you can reattempt the test only after 30 days of your first attempt. So if you have not qualified with the qualifying criteria, and right now the qualifying criteria is 70%. So the overall marks for now is 1,000. So you have to you have to get a minimum score of 700 to qualify, and anything on top of that is like cherry on the cake. You know that, right? So, and also there are certain exciting goodies involved. So for the people who are getting the highest marks among the particular category, right? So that's how it is. And then definitely and that includes like things like MacBook, iPhone, and all that. And so basically with Relevel, guys, you're in a unique position to invite interest from companies instead of hunting for your own opportunities. So that's how it works. So basically once you've given the test, sit back and relax, so the companies will start reaching out to you. Cool. Registering on the Relevel is also quite easy, guys. So you can actually get hired. So you have to just click on the link which is there in the description, and then once you do that, you'll be asked to choose the test of your choice. So right now, as I said, there are three different platforms available: business development, front end, and the back end development. Multiple sub roles available within these portfolios, like sales associate, customer engagement associate, like that in business development. In front end, we have Angular web developer. Back end, maybe having back end engineer, data engineer, software engineer, and all that. So depending on your profile, do select it. And then next thing would be to select the date of your choice when you want to give your test, right? So dates are limited, slots are limited because it's a beta platform, so I would suggest you to book it fast. The last thing, they will ask you to fill up your details in the admit card, like full name, email ID, birth year, current state, and gender. And also the very important thing is the referral code. So you can use the code Python 10. So if you're going to use this Python 10, you're going to unlock the bonus sample test paper for you. Okay, this is very important, guys. You don't miss out. So please fill up the code Python 10. If you're going to use that, you're going to get the bonus sample test paper. Okay, and then click the create account. So once you do that, you can see there is a tab called practice once you've registered. So you'll be able to see the the sample paper set here, right? So that's basically talking about your the potentially asked question in the assessment. So very, I would say, a very strong set of questions which you can actually prepare and be ready for the test, right? So that's it, guys. With this, I would really request you to register it for on the Relevel platform. At least you can try it for once. There is anyway no cost involved, and if you're looking out for a job, why not give it a try here, right? So give it a try at least for once. If it's not benefiting you, maybe you can take your own decision post that. But at least you should be trying it for once, right? That's my humble request, and do try it. I mean that deserves at least one try, right? So do register on the platform today, guys. And also we have an official Telegram channel, so you can see the link in the description also. So once you once you join this channel, so basically it's a one place stop for all of your queries. So you can actually get all the upcoming schedules and all that. So that's gonna be benefiting for you, right? So it's a one place stop. At last, as always, I always request you to please press the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you've not done that, please do it straight away, because this is the bare minimum thing we can expect. We are spending time with you. We are trying to do our best to make you understand the concepts. So at least the least which you can do from your side is press the like button, right? So now with this, we are into our content slide. So we were talking about the Seaborn plots. We have discussed really numerous number of plots. I'll do some quick recaps also before jumping into the new set of plots today. But again, anybody has any questions, do feel free to put up your questions in the chat. We're gonna cover that. Vamsi Krishna, I saw your comment. Complete the NumPy series. Thank you so much for putting up that effort and understand that. So I'll take this as a feedback. I'll try to finish NumPy. I was actually getting lesser views, so I thought people are not really interested in to know that. So I just finished that and I jumped into data science. That's what I did. But again, if you're really interested, I'll do that. So I have few set of functions to be covered in NumPy. I do remember that. So maybe next week I'll give 2-3 days to NumPy and finish up the remaining set of functions. So I have to prepare the content for that. So I'll prepare it over the weekend, and then we can do it maybe next week. Thank you so much, Vamsi Krishna, for reminding me that. So you have my words. I'll be taking care of that next week for sure. Okay, anybody has any questions from anywhere, or do you want me to just jump into the Seaborn plots? Guys, please take out your time, and at least if you have anything, do let me know. I'm more than happy to answer your queries. Right, so if nothing, so we can directly jump to our content slide. So meanwhile, again, I'm gonna wait for at least 10-15 seconds if anybody has any questions from our previous chat, previous sessions. So whatever plots we have discussed so far. Okay. Okay, so then in that case, let's start. Okay, so I'm gonna just give you a quick recap. I'll take not more than 15-20 minutes in this. Okay, so the thing is, because we covered some set of graphs, right? So it will not make sense if I just keep on talking about some of the other graphs. Again, you have to understand what we're trying to do here. So Seaborn, as I said, high level API for the programming visualization, right? It's more of a package available for you, built on top of your matplotlib. So now when you compare the Seaborn with your matplotlib, it basically gives you more functionalities, right? So there are like when you talk about only the graph, not the data, so you have two basic things which you can take care of, as I was talking about: scales and size styles. Styles, as in you can change the background. So for background, we have set style function I was talking about. I have certain background themes available, and the scale, basically you're gonna change the scale of your data points, right? So set style mein you remember, so we discussed about something called as axis style also. So set style also come with some certain set of another functions, which is like on top of my set style. We have axis style, again good set of functions available. So we can just play around with this. Remember, we have passing these different arguments under the dictionaries. So we are changing the color of the background to red, and then even the changing the color of your grid to yellow, and then there are a lot of other functions available, guys. You already know this. So set style is for your background themes. Set scales are nothing but, so for scaling we have something called as set context. So we have 4 different contexts available. We can change the scaling of your data, you remember, so we saw that. So we change the scaling of your data, so that's where set context works. Color palette, you have color palette, multiple options available. You can change the color. So but again, the thing is, you have to understand the sequence of your colors, or whether the data is sequential or the data is diverging, like, you know, minus and plus. So what sort of color combinations you want, you have to choose it. So again, you have n number of lists available here, which is by default, right? And you can get the list also. So depending on your data, depending on your usage, you can choose the color palette. The function is very simple, color palette as it is, right? And you can pass the color palette, the color combination pattern you want. And this is nothing but the number of blocks you want, number of colors you want. So I've passed 10. So basically you can see 10 colors here. So this is again a very good functions available. So after color palette, we started basically, these are the, I would say, the highlighters of your graph, right? Like the theme, you change the size, you change the font, you change the color, or towards a layout, right? So layout of your graph. So these, again, before actually jumping into the data, we need to understand the layout of the graph also, right? So 3 major things for you in the layout: your set style, your basically your background, your set context, the scaling of your data. The third is your color palette, right? So these 3 you can pass additionally to your data, additionally to your graph, to change the layout or the theme or the look and feel of your graph, right? So that's what we can do. Now coming to our data plots. So 2 major type of plots we have, okay? So univariate and the bivariates, right? So univariate analysis and the bivariate analysis. So univariate analysis, you remember we talked about single variable plot. So uni means single, variate means variable. So basically plot of a single variable, right? So here you remember we talked about a distribution of plots. We use dist plot. So this is a very good function, dist plot, talking about the distribution of my plot, right? So we use the loaded preloaded data set, and then we plot it like this. So if we have 2 functions here, so we're using for the sepal length. So dist plot is basically giving you the data in form of bins, smaller groups. So dividing the whole range of your numbers, whole range of available information into smaller subgroups, subcategories, sub clusters, I would say, right? So that's where your density comes. So like for example, age, I was giving you that example, right? So 0 to 100, that's the overall range. So I can divide into 5 smaller range. So 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, 80 to 100. So 5 different groups I have. And then I'm gonna represent, so maybe 20 to 40, how many people are there? 40 to 60, how many people are there? So that's giving me a distribution. So how the distribution of my overall population looks like. So like here you can see, if I talk about sepal length, so sepal length is actually giving me a very unified distribution, a normal distribution. So you can see a reverse U, right? We call this as a bell curve. So it's like a bell shape, right? So, or a reverse U. So it's a bell curve, very evenly distributed. It's increasing and then gradually decreasing. So that's a single peak and peak information, and then this peak is in the middle of the graph. So that's a normal distribution we call as, okay? So we call this as a normal distribution. Right, so curve basically here, this curve is a career hunt is more towards a bell curve. So we call about this. So a normalized curve. So there are basically 2-3 types of curve, I would say. I mean 2-3 types of statistical information which we can see from the curve. Okay, the first we call it as the normal curve, the normalized data, or the bell curve, right? So when you see a graph after plotting a dist plot, which is giving you a U shape, a reverse U shaped kind of a graph, and this the peak of the graph is in the middle of your graph. So we call as the mean and the median of your data is in the center, right? So the mean, I mean the middle, the average value of your data, and the median means the middle value of your data. I hope people are aware of mean and median. If anybody has any doubt in the mean and median, do let me know that. I can explain that also, right? So this means that your mean and median are almost at the similar point, right? So that's what we call as it's a normalized data. Okay, Now there'll be some data where you can see the peak may be on the left hand side like this. So peak here, and then you have a longer tail. So and then you have a tail on the right hand side. So it's called as a right skewed data. The data is skewed. Skewed means it has a priority on some side, maybe left side or the right side, right? So when you have the tail on the right hand side, you can see it is a right skewed data. Similarly, you can have a peak on the right side of your graph, and then you have a tail on the left hand side. We call it a left skewed data. Okay, so data is not normally distributed. Data is I would say biased. So data is biased towards right, or data is biased towards left. So in that case, the data is skewed, right? So that is a different set of curve we have. Okay, so but here you can see the data is normally distributed. So it's a pure very sweet looking normal curve, a normal bell curve. So its data is very evenly distributed. So that's a normal distributed data, right? But here on the other variable which we started plotting, so you can see this. Now it has two peaks first, for example, right? So you can see this, I have a smaller peak here, then I have a bigger peak here, right? So this kind of data is not normally distributed. So it's not a normal distribution. It's not an even distribution. Sorry. Right. So in this case, the data is not normally distributed. So that's how, and it is not even skewed. So you can see this, it has multiple peaks. So data is very randomly distributed, I would say, in that case. Okay. Cool. So that's how I'm getting this information. And now there are two things which are seeing from the graph here. The first is this rectangular individual block box or the bars. And then you are seeing a line, right? Like a run line going on. So the rectangular boxes are called as the bars or the hists, basically, histograms. And the line is called as a run chart or KDE. Okay, you can see this KDE. Okay, so now in this plot also we have a function to either enable or disable this bar and the line. So if it give hist as true, that means that I want the bar also, and KD is also true. That means I want the line also. I can give KD as false. And if I run this, right? My bad. Okay. So I won't get this run chart in this case. So I mean, I still have the option to choose whatever I want, basically. Okay. So that's about the univariate analysis, guys. Now bivariate analysis. So univariate analysis mein we were doing the single variable ka plot, right? Bivariate analysis. Bi means two. Variate means again variable here. So I have bivariate analysis. I'm doing the analysis or the plots of two variables. Okay. So two variables mein agar aap broadly dekho, so again it can still be split into two parts. Like the first is like ultimately I am looking for like two variable analysis, right? So there'll be like x and y's, right? So graph में आपको x and y दोनों होता है, correct? So at the bivariate में you want x and y both. So the first scenario could be like where you want the x and y both to be numerical, because ultimately एक को तो numeric होना ही पड़ेगा, right? आप plot क्या करोगे? Numbers को ही plot करोगे ना? तो एक को तो numeric होना ही पड़ेगा, right? So in this case, there are two types of broadly classified data. The first is, I could say, a numeric to numeric plot. So basically both x and y's are numeric. And the second case is either of them is not numeric, it is categorical. So categorical kya hota hai? Strings, basically, which is not number in your data. I'll show it to you. So for example, suppose I have this data. So df mein ek baar show karta hu aapko. So can you see this? So now these four variables, sepal length width and petal length width, are my numbers, where species, it's a category data, right? It's a string, it's a categorical data for me, right? So either I can plot the data between sepal length and sepal width, or I can plot the data between, say, sepal length as a numeric or species as a category. I can do that, right? So now I have what? I have basically two types of broad classification in bivariate analysis: my numeric to numeric or numeric to categorical data. Okay, so carrier hunt, it's not mix of two normal curves. It's a random data. It's mix of two normal curves nahi hota hai kuch. Okay, it's a random data basically. So it's nothing. Okay. But a good observation, and thank you so much for asking that. So it's basically nothing. It's more of a random data for me. Okay, coming back to the point. So bivariate में as I've told you broadly दो कैटेगरी, दो टाइप ऑफ ग्राफ हो सकते हैं, है ना. द फर्स्ट इज न्यूमेरिक टू न्यूमेरिक, जिसमें मैंने दोनों न्यूमेरिक रखा हुआ है, एंड द सेकंड इज न्यूमेरिक टू कैटेगोरिकल. तो सबसे पहले अभी हम फर्स्ट कैटेगरी की बात करते हैं, न्यूमेरिक टू न्यूमेरिक, जहां पे मेरे पास दोनों एक्स एंड वाई न्यूमेरिक ही हैं. ठीक है. सो इस बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस में जो सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग प्लॉट मुझे लगता है वो है जॉइंट प्लॉट. ओके, जॉइंट प्लॉट देखो हिंदी में भी समझोगे ना, जॉइंट प्लॉट क्या है. जॉइंट मीन्स ज्वाइन कर रहे हो कुछ आप, राइट. सो जॉइंट प्लॉट से आप हमेशा याद रखना, जॉइंट में आप दो चीजों का जॉइंट करते हो, जिसमें आपको सबसे बड़ा फायदा क्या होता है जॉइंट प्लॉट में, यू हैव अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ योर यूनिवेरिएट एज वेल एज द बाइवेरिएट ग्राफ. So bivariate में you can see this, for example now I'm passing here x and y individually. Can you see this? So initially in the dist plot we were just passing single variable which is a number, but here in joint plot we are passing both x and y's with which where both of them are numbers. ठीक है. So now इसमें क्या हो रहा है, पेटल x मेरा पेटल लेंथ हो गया, y मेरा पेटल विड्थ हो गया. अब इसमें प्लॉट बना रहा हूँ. So अभी आपको यहाँ पे what are you seeing here is you can see a scatter plot. I mean आपको ये dotted plots दिख रहे हैं, right? So ये dot जो single dot is basically an observation from your data. Okay, so we call this graph as a scatter plot. Okay, so now we are plotting a scatter plot between my petal length and the petal width. Scatter plot basically x and y coordinate के हिसाब से it is giving you that observation where that observation lies on depending on both the variables x and y. ठीक है. So that's my scatter plot, which is a bivariate plot. Now the good thing of the joint plot is it is also giving you the univariate graphs. Okay, so for all of these individual this variables, you have a univariate graph also on top of it, and for the y-axis you have it on the right hand side. Got it? Very very good graph. So joint plot has this benefit for you. So it gives you both the univariate as well as the bivariate plots. Joint से हमेशा रखना, joint मतलब दो चीजों का joint है यहाँ पे, है ना. So इससे हमें joint से पता चलता है. So एक तो इसका by default है. So अगर मैं मतलब if I'm not passing anything else apart from this, so by default जो यहाँ पर आपका bivariate का ग्राफ बनेगा वो it will be scatter plot. The scatter plot is by default. Okay, but joint plot maybe I have two more options, two more interesting options I have. So now if I don't want to see, so again if I don't want to see these observations, I want to see ki how my data is distributed as in if there is a certain region where the number of observations are more, so how my data is distributed around or for overall plane, right? So what is the data distribution? So to check the density of my data or the spread of my data, I have an option to plot as an hex bin. Okay, so joint plot, still I'm going to plot it as joint plot only, but in the kind, in argument as kind, I can give it as hex. Okay, so now what it does, instead of plotting as a scatter plot, it's going to plot it as hex bin plots. Okay, so now इसमें difference क्या है guys? Notice करना please, अगर किसी को doubt हो तो let me know. सो यूनिवेरिएट है ना यार. सो देख यूनिवेरिएट का मैंने आपको बताया ना कैरियर हंट. सो आपको दिख रहा है ऑन टॉप में यहाँ पे ये जो आपको दिख रहा है, अगर आप जैसे अगर सिंपल पेटल लेंथ को अगर सो ऊपर में क्या बेसिकली दिख रहा है, पेटल लेंथ दिख रहा है. आपको मैं एक बार वो दिखा देता हूँ. सो सपोज आपको प्लॉट करना है एज सॉरी SNS डॉट डिस्ट प्लॉट, एंड डिस्ट प्लॉट में आपको करना है DF डॉट पेटल length. Okay, so now if you plot this, so now this graph is what is showing here. Okay, so this graph, so I'm gonna put my KDE as false for now. So now this is the univariate analysis, univariate graph for my petal length, right? So this is my petal length. So this graph is what it is shown here. Okay, so now you might be seeing that the number of bins would be more here. So इस bins का मतलब क्या है? These are the bins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So again the ranges are same here, but here you can see the different set of graphs. So basically yes, so it might have given you different number of bins, but this is the overall trend of my data, right? So if I want to see the univariate trend of my single variable, so this is how it is, right? If you want to plot a single variable like petal length, so this is what the trend you will get, right? Likewise For petal width, this is the univariate graph on the right hand side you'll see. So this is the benefit of doing it to joint plot. So you get both the bivariate analysis, which is the scatter plot, or hex bin plot, or there is one more, or also on the top and then the right hand side you will see the univariate graph also, the distribution, right? Cool. Thank you so much, Career Hunt, for asking that question. Coming to the second kind, which I was talking about, the hex bin plot, right? So in this hex bin, as I was talking about, so we have an option to check the density or to check the spread of my data, right? So in this case, you can see this, the darker the shade, that means that more number of observations are present in that particular locality. So here you can see two darker zones here. This is the central location and at the start location, right? So you can easily observe that the number of observations are actually higher in these regions. So these are my more densely populated region. And then you can just, based on the shades, you can understand the second highest will be this one, and then this shade, and then the lightest one, the white ones, right? So this is how my distribution of my plots look like. So this is my spread of my data, density of my data, right? Another, in the joint plot itself, we have Kde plot. So again, in the kind, instead of giving hex, I'm going to give KDE. Okay. So in the KDE also, you can see this. Instead of having, again, in the form of a density plot, KDE is also giving you nothing but a density plot only, but in the forms of line. Okay. So here what you can see, again, I have two major circles being made up. So you can see one circle here. So this is my central more populated region, and then another less densely populated region here. So you can see again two major clusters being formed, right? Another way of observing your density. So like apart from density of hex bin, you can also use a KDE plot. So you have these two options available with you. Cool. Again, if you don't want both the univariate and the bivariate to be part of your plot, right? So on top of this, we also have another bivariate analysis plot, which is the rel plot, the relation plot. Okay, so you can directly plot your two numeric variables x and y in form of scatter, or maybe in form of line chart. Okay, so like for example, now I've loaded this data. Like the tips data, so which is again a preloaded coming from the Seaborn package itself. So you have this data coming up. So I have total bills, I have tip, I have the gender, I have smoker, days, time, and the number of people dining out. Okay. So in this, I'm gonna plot total bill and the tips in form of a scatter plot. So you have kind as scatter here, right? So by default, and here the good part is in the rel plot, I'm gonna only use the I would say the bivariate analysis. I'm not looking for any univariate analysis here. So in this, you can see this, I've plotted total bill and tip, and you can see somewhat an upward trend. So basically we can also interpret from this is, as long as my total bill is increasing, my tip is also expected to increase, but it's not a very strong relation, right? So the data is getting fanning out. So my data is getting spread after we go to some higher numbers, right? And then data points are also less. So chances are that you might get a higher tip, but again, it's not a very strong relation here. Cool. Any questions so far, guys? And also you can plot the same graph instead of using a scatter, using a line chart. Okay, so you can give an option of line in the same relation plot, and then it will show the data like this. So instead of plotting individual data points, it's going to join those data points and give you the trend, how it's like an increment order, how it's increasing. So also here you can see there is an upward trend, but again the troughs and the crests, basically the peaks and the lows are lower here, but the peaks are higher on the higher side, right? Cool. Ronak, again, I'm sorry for repeating this, but again, we had a couple of new people here, so I started taking a quick recap. So I'm going to quickly cover that, right? So thank you for reminding that. So I'll take not more than 5-10 more minutes to quickly finish this, and I'll start the new topics. Okay. But again, if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me that. So again, okay, so career hunt, if you only use x and y, as I've said, scatter plot is by default. Okay, so for example, if I ओनली एक्स और ओनली वाई, ओनली एक्स और ओनली वाई नहीं, इसमें एरर आ जाएगी। इसमें आपको दिखाता हूं, आपका इसमें देखो बाय डिफॉल्ट इसमें मैंडेटरी है, अगर आप एक्स एंड वाई डालते हो तो वो आपको एक्स एंड वाई में देना पड़ेगा, तो तभी रिलेशन प्लॉट निकल करके आएगी। तो इसमें एक्स एंड वाई इंपॉर्टेंट है। सो इसका ऑब्जेक्टिव यही है, रिलेशन निकालना। इट्स अ बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस प्लॉट, यूनिवेरिएट के लिए डिस प्लॉट है। ठीक है। अगेन इसमें एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग आर्ग्यूमेंट है गाइस, ह्यू। सो ह्यू एक वन ऑफ द वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग आर्ग्यूमेंट है। यू कैन ऐड द ग्रैनुलैरिटी ऑन योर डेटा, राइट? सो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल हियर सेम टोटल बिल एंड टिप पे अगर आप पास करते हो, सो वी हैव द डेज हियर। सो नाउ वी कैन आल्सो फाइंड आउट लाइक for each day what is the difference, what is how my data is being related, right? So how the pattern of my tip is changing. So that's how we can do it using the day as a hue, right? So you can see the different colors are popping up. Likewise you have another option as call. So call bhi aap use kar sakte ho to add one more granularity. So now in this case you can see this, now I'm passing for each day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and also for male and female, right? So now on Thursday, male and female for the trend of tip versus bill, and also for each day for gender. So I can keep on increasing the granularity like that. Okay, so I can drill down on the data. So there is also an option available. Cool. So that's about my rel plot. Cool. So after this we discuss about a very interesting pair plot. So now instead of plotting each of these individual scatter plots or each of these individual relation plots, right? For say multiple number of columns, if I have say 10 20 odd columns, I cannot keep on plotting all the multiple plots, right? Rather I can have it in a single go. So pair plot is giving you that basically. So you can pass the entire data here, okay, and you can actually select the pattern and the colors, the kind is scatter, and the diagonal kind basically the diagonal graphs. This is your univariate analysis, okay? So that here the diagonal graphs are your univariate analysis. So it is giving you all the available scatter plots which you would have plotted one by one at a single go. Can you see this? So now on the x-axis I have 4 columns: sepal length width, and then petal length width, right? And then also on the left side on the y-axis also have the similar same 4 columns, right? So x cross y का multiple graph बन रहा है. Here petal width, sepal length. Here petal length, sepal width. So multiple cross का graph बन रहा है at the single go. Okay, so that is where we have the pair plots available. Cool. This is my overall broadly first category, which is my numeric to numeric, है ना? Guys, again, this is confidential, so I cannot do that. So please pardon me for that. Again, coming back to the point. So numeric to numeric, I would say, I was saying, so numeric to numeric, I have plot what Hex plot. Sorry, my bad. So I plot joint plot, right? I plot joint plot, rel plot, and then multiple options on that, and also combining all these numeric to numeric, I had a pair plot option also, right? So this is my first broad category of bivariate analysis, number to number. The second, another broad category is number to categorical data, right? So this is again a very important point. So as I was talking about, so we can either plot on numbers to numbers or number to category, right? In numbers to category also, I have 2-3 very good plots available. The first is strip plot. The second is swarm plot. Okay, I'll first talk about the difference here. Okay, so strip plot में क्या हो रहा है? Strip plot में again, as I was talking about, we have to pass at least one categorical and the other as number. Okay, so here can you see this? My x is species now, which is a categorical data, and y is petal length, any numeric data from the same variable data set. Now in the graph, can you see this? Now for each of these individual categories each of these different categories, I have the distribution of my numeric data, right? So this is where my individual categories data would look like. The similar information is available here on the swarm plot. Similar data, but now the graphs are slightly different. Can you see this? Here it's more of a concentrated graph in strip plot, but in swarm plot, swarm means it's I would say it's more of bulging out, right? Can you see this? It is a horizontal bulge of your data, right? So difference क्या है यहाँ पे? Strip plot में what it does, it actually collaborates all of your individually available points in the cluster and overlaps it. ठीक है. अब इसमें क्या है ना कि सपोज इफ यू वांट टू फाइंड आउट योर इंडिविजुअल पॉइंट्स, आप काउंट नहीं कर पाओगे. सो इट ओवरलैप्स योर ओवरऑल डेटा, राइट. सो ये ओवरलैप कर जाता है पॉइंट. बट स्वॉर्म प्लॉट में क्या हो रहा है, आपका ये जो आपके जो डेटा पॉइंट्स हैं ये बेसिकली आपको हॉरिजॉन्टली स्ट्रेच में दिखाई दे रहा है. यहाँ पे इंडिविजुअल जितने भी डेटा पॉइंट्स हैं वो स्टिल विजिबल हैं, दिख रहा है आपको. अब यू कैन काउंट द पॉइंट्स, राइट. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन योर स्वॉर्म प्लॉट एंड स्ट्रिप प्लॉट. सेम है, ठीक है. कोई इशू इसमें? हेलो संदीप, थैंक यू फॉर ज्वाइनिंग इट. दो और ग्राफ जो हमने कल पढ़े थे मैं क्विकली कवर कर लेता हूं. वो है बॉक्स प्लॉट एंड वायलिन प्लॉट. ओके, सो बॉक्स प्लॉट एंड वायलिन प्लॉट अगेन सेम कैटेगरी को बिलोंग करते हैं, न्यूमेरिक टू कैटेगोरिकल ग्राफ्स. ओके, न्यूमेरिक टू कैटेगोरिकल अंडर बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस. ठीक है. बॉक्स प्लॉट में क्या होता है गाइस, देखो लुक एट दिस. सो नाउ आई एम प्लॉटिंग द सेम डेटा अंडर अ बॉक्स प्लॉट. ये आपका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बताता है. देखो ये क्या है यहाँ पर, ये आपका स्प्रेड बता रही कैसे डेटा, मतलब लोकेलिटी क्या है, राइट. बट हियर ये आपका ओवरऑल ट्रेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बताता है. अब इसमें क्या है, आप जैसे इसमें देख सकते हो, ये यहाँ पे आपका एक रेंज बताता है. ये क्वार्टाइल रेंजेस होते हैं, 25th परसेंटाइल एंड 75th परसेंटाइल ऑफ योर डेटा. ओके, सो बेसिकली आपका डेटा में कोई आउटलायर है, व्हाट इज द ओवरऑल रेंज ऑफ योर डेटा, and if there is any data point which is lying outside of a normal trend. So can you see this here? For versicolor species we have one dot available on the lower side. So basically this is an outlier for you from the normal trend beyond your range of quartile, which is 25th percentile and 75th percentile. Beyond that there is one point. Okay, so this is again your available information from box plot, so giving you the distribution of your entire data. This is again very important. Cool. So again you can see this. So this is your information. Again, as I was talking about hue, so hue is a very good argument along with call, which you can actually pass in your graphs, and you can add a granularity in your data. Okay, so like for example I had the same information, right. So total bill versus day, so each day how my bills are getting changed. So I can add a hue of your gender, right. So I can have it for male and female, so depending on my my gender I can do it for different days. So I can add another level of granularity on top of my same graph using the argument hue. Cool. Same as Violin Plot. Violin Plot is also giving you the exact same information but in a slightly different way. Okay, this is giving you a box and whiskers. So basically this is my upper and the lower ones are called as whiskers. This is my central box, but here it is giving it form of a violin, right. So here the good thing is it is giving you the locality of your the density of your observations also. So wherever there is a bulge in the violins, right, this shows that this area has higher number of observations. Okay, and also on the top you can see if the peak is very narrow, that means that it has more number of outliers there, right. So the number of observation are actually lesser in that area, and that means that tends to outliers, right. So the peak is here, you can see for Saturday it's very narrow, and it's very peak, it's more peak and very narrow, right. So you have to read these graphs very importantly. Again you can add an option of hue here. Hue as again the similar thing, it will give you two more graphs, but if you want to again organizedly see the same two available options, so we have another argument called a split. So instead of having two different graphs, plots of the same, if the hue has two categories here, so here we have male and female, so I can use this option as split as true. If you're going to do that, I'm gonna join these two individually available graphs here for male and female as a single violin plot. Okay, again a beautiful way of seeing the information. Like here you can see this, on Fridays males are expectedly more probable to pay higher amount of bills, but females are paying the lesser bills compared to male on Friday. Good observation, right. So likewise we have to see the observations from my data, right. Cool. So this is the quick recap, guys. I try to be as quick as possible, and my throat is paining again. Anybody has any questions before we move on to our next very important set of graph, which is bar plot coming to our statistical estimation of my data. Anybody has any questions here? Quickly guys, anybody has any questions? Okay. Cool. With this, let's proceed. So we have another set of graphs available. Okay, why the graph showing both the axes? मैं समझा नहीं. आप कौन से ग्राफ की बात कर रहे हो? I mean, not understanding. Okay, just let me try to explain the first graph. Okay. Okay, like for example here, okay, the first graph. So what I'm trying to plot here is between day and total bill. So as I've said, so here I'm more talking about my one of the categorical variables and one of the numeric variables, right? So my day is my categorical variable, which is on the x-axis. So there'll definitely be two axes for sure, right? Because anyway, it's a bivariate analysis plot, right? So I'll be having two variables here. But the only thing is the first variable has to be mandatorily a category, okay? So which is my day here, okay? And then the y, which is a number, numeric data, it's a total bill, okay? So now I'm plotting a violin plot here, which is again I would say a bivariate analysis plot where you're giving category versus numerical ka plot. Okay? So in this case, what's happening here? Look at this. So let's look at the first graph, which is my Thursday, a pink one, pink violin here. Okay. So there are 2-3 interesting observations from this. Okay. So the central part where the bulging, okay, where the bulging, yeah, it's, if you talk about a single graph here, right? It's, yes, you're absolutely right. It's more of a mirror image, right? So the left side of the violin and the right side of the margin is more like a mirror image. Okay, you're absolutely, I think I got your question now. Yes, it's the mirror image, right? It's a mirror image of individually inside a single violin. Okay, so the bulging part, that means that the number of observations on this particular region is higher. Okay, and also you have to observe the peaks here. Okay, so you can, in the peak you can see this. The lower peak is very narrow, very shallow, right? So, I mean, there is no outlier in this region, right? So, very strong, I would say starting point is very broad. But on the top, I have outliers. So, you can see this, on the higher side, the number of observation are getting lower and lower. But still, I have observation till 50, right? Similarly, on Saturday, can you see this? I have a slightly lower side peak also, and the big upper side peak, right? So you can see this. Here is my bulging part, the more density of my locality of my data, but on Saturdays I have higher outliers both on the upper side as well as on the lower side. Okay, so this is how the important thing from plotting the graph, as I've always kept on telling is, guys, always remember, so it's not it's not very fancy to plot some good graphs. Rather, it's something which is very important, that you have to understand the meaning of this. You should be able to read these graphs, right? In fact, करियर एंड जो आपने मिरर इमेज का बोला ना, इसी मिरर इमेज को ही हम एक कॉन्सेप्ट की तरह यूज कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे, बिकॉज यू ऑलरेडी नो दैट द बोथ साइड्स ऑफ माय वायलिन इज अ मिरर इमेज, राइट? So either अगर single one भी होगा, that is fine for me, right? So that concept is used here when we use split as true, when we have only two categories in the hue. Okay, so in this sex I have male and female, right? Only two categories. So I can plot maybe male on the left side and the female on the right side. So I can club it into a single graph, because anyway it was a mirror image, right? It was a redundant. It was a unnecessary repetition of my information, right? I can still plot it in a single graph, right? So you can see this. the same graph, the upper graph has now been converted into a single graph, but still giving me the exact same information. And thank you so much for asking and noticing that question, and very well pointed out, Kiran, and thank you so much for that. And I hope I made this point clear, right? Clear to everyone else? Sandeep, Ronak, whosoever part of our chat today? Cool. So with this, let's move to our next set of graph, which is bar plot. Okay. Again, the box plots, the violin plots, these are very common plots, right? So very commonly used plots. Likewise, the bar plot, which is again one of the very commonly used plot in this. Okay. So here what happens, guys, so what we are doing, again, it's more of a graph where we have one category and one numerical, one continuous variable or one numeric data. Okay. So again, let's see how it comes, how it shows. So I have loaded a very famous data set, Titanic. Okay, so you guys might have heard, so whosoever have interest in data science, right? So they might have heard about Titanic dataset. So Titanic dataset is a very good data set to understand your logical understanding on data, and it comes by default with this Seaborn package. I have kept on telling you that. Okay, so now I have used this data set Titanic for my data analysis purpose. So now look at this, what all options, what all data sets, what all columns are available, right? So now look at this. So I have, first of all, no names here. Okay, so very classified information, no names given. So I have the survived column, survived as in 0, 1, whether survived or not survived. Okay, and I have P class, passenger class, third class, first class, second class, the passenger class, male or female, age, I don't know what is this, SIB, SP, Parch, I don't know, fare, what he paid, embarked, yes, class, third class, first class, man or woman, anyway, it's a repeated information, I could see that, adult male, so whether this is adult or child, deck not available for this. This female was from C deck, B deck, and all that. Embark town, alive, no, or alone. So I mean, accompanying alone or coming with a family. So a very good data set, guys. So you can always work on this. Very useful information. So now what we have done is, so basically what it does. So I have plotted my category here, which is my gender, male and female, and now I'm passing y as survived, whether, so survive, you can see it's basic, no, y survived is what? Survive is my 0, 1 class, right? So it's basically giving you the zeros and the ones here, okay? So zeros and ones basically my survival, whether the person has survived or not, okay? And now basically it's a number of survival. So I mean, it's giving you the count of those survivals, right? So because it is giving you an internal aggregation of count. And then I have a hue as class, basically, right? So male and female. So now instead of having only male and females, I'm also adding one more granularity. As I've said, hue is used to add one more granularity to your graph, right? So I've just given class. So basically first, second, third class mein kya survival rates hain. Now can you see this very distinctively? The number of survival, first of all, for females overall compared to male is very high. Right, so the females who survived in this disastrous event were from female in this class was very high compared to males. I mean, that is, we also saw in that movie, right? So, or also very interestingly, we see that the first class survival rates are the highest compared to the second, and the third class are the least, right? And the similar trend is valid both for males and females. Although it's a lower trend, I mean the numbers are lower, but definitely I could see that the trend is similar for both males and females. Cool. Bar plot giving you mean of survival 400 by 1000, that's why 0.4. मीन ऑफ सर्वाइवल नहीं बोलूंगा मैं, काउंट ऑफ, ये बेसिकली डेंसिटी शो करता है. मीन की तरह मत देखो, डेंसिटी शो करता है, मतलब कितने पोटेंशियल नंबर ऑफ डेटा पॉइंट्स यहाँ पर अवेलेबल. मैं इसमें इनफैक्ट आपको इंटरेस्टिंग चीज दिखाता हूँ अभी, जस्ट गिव मी 1 मिनट. सो इसमें क्या होता है ना, देखो फॉर एग्जांपल आप इसमें इस बार प्लॉट के अंदर बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस भी अवेलेबल है, मैं इस पे बाद में आता हूँ। एक बार मैं आपको शो करता हूँ यहाँ पे, फॉर एग्जाम्पल दिस। सो नाउ suppose if you want to add the labels, okay, so if you want to add the labels, right now it is giving you the density, so I mean technically आप इसको मीन तो नहीं बोल सकते, but density of my information होता है, but again जो इसका टेक्निकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन है वो है काउंट है, ओके, एंड दिस काउंट के ऊपर ही बेसिकली वो यहाँ पे आपको शो कर रहा था बाय डिफॉल्ट। एंड अगर इस काउंट पे आपको लेबल डालना है, लेबल एज इन सपोज इफ यू वांट टू गिव द एग्जैक्ट नंबर ऑफ काउंट आल्सो ऑन दिस ईच ऑफ माय ग्राफ्स, ओके, सो ये बाय डिफॉल्ट अवेलेबल नहीं होता है, बट अगेन इसके अंदर भी ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल है, वी कैन डू दैट, आई विल शो इट टू यू वो कैसे करते हैं, ठीक है। अब पहले बार प्लॉट का और मल्टीपल ऑप्शंस भी देख लेते हैं, दैट इज ऑल्सो पॉसिबल। सो हमारा टेक्निकलिटीज इसमें बार प्लॉट के अंदर घुसते हैं। सो इन दिस आई हैव लॉट ऑफ मल्टीपल ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल, ओके, सो यू कैन सी दिस, आई हैव एक्स वाई ह्यूएस क्लास पैलेट, बेसिकली कलर पैलेट आप दे सकते हो, ऑर्डर किस ऑर्डर में डेटा को दिखाना है, मेल एंड फीमेल, आपका कैप साइज 0.05, सैचुरेशन इज 1, अगेन मोर फ्रॉम योर कलर पर्सपेक्टिव, एरर कलर है रेड, सो बेसिकली आपका यहाँ पे एरर का कलर आएगा रेड, एरर का विथ है 2 एंड CI इज स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन, बेसिक कॉन्फिडेंस इंटरवल जो आपका स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन पर आएगा, सो दिस इज योर कॉन्फिडेंस इंटरवल, ये इतने से इतने में वेरी कर सकता है, ओके। So many like this, in fact guys, for all the previous graph also now we have lot of other options available, okay, so you can just keep on exploring it. So I've just shown you few of them, so you can just keep on exploring it. So here I've specifically added few more to show you what all options can be available, so just up to you, okay. And also you can see this, we can have the horizontally plotted bar plot also. So if you just give orient as h, right, so I can have the same number of my data sets, same number of I would say same graph can be plotted horizontally. This is also possible if you give orient as h, that is depending on your use again, okay, cool. The alternative to my bar graph is my count plot, okay. So technically here in this count plot you'll be able to see the exact number of counts available, right. So वो भी आपको बार प्लॉट भी जो ट्रेंड शो कर रहा है ना, वो भी काउंट पे ही शो कर रहा है, बट उसका डेंसिटी की वो इट इज शोइंग एज फॉर्म ऑफ अ डेंसिटी, ओके। बट if you really want to see the exact number of counts of each of my observation, each of my classes, then in that case instead of using a bar plot you can use an alternative which is my count plot, okay. So count plot में it is actually giving you the similar trend which is giving you bar plot, but instead of plotting as a density it is plotting it as a count, okay. So count of my observations, okay. So again here guys, but the good thing is we can have in this count plot we can add the number of labels, okay. So labels as in for each of my class exactly how many data points are available here. So the labels also is very important. So label I've added, so so earlier it was little trickier, so we were iterating it and then getting the information and then matching it with the plotting it on top of my graph. But now with the latest version of Seaborn and Matplotlib, so if you have Matplotlib I think greater than 3.4 I guess, so you have an option called as bar label. So this is now very handy. So now we in the latest version of Seaborn and Matplotlib they have added this functionality of bar label, okay. So if you use this bar label, so you can directly pass the container. So ax is nothing but I've saved this graph as ax, okay. So now I have this bar label here. So I have bar label. In this bar label I'm gonna plot the containers value of 0. This is my containers basically, so I'm plotting this 216 from here and then putting it on top of my text, so I'm putting in top of my graph, cool. Any questions here guys? Sandeep has a question, sir. We can will count plot will work both for x and y? Technically yes. So you have an option of let me show it to you. I think you have an option of y also. Yes, you can. So you can give a y also here. So this is totally fine. You have an option of y, so you can give that. Cool. Any other questions guys? ये अगेन सेम चीज है गाइस, तो मैंने इसमें आपको क्या किया हुआ है, क्लास के ऊपर अगेन डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया हुआ है, I've added another hue, which is man, woman and child, and then on top of that the classes, and then same cheese hai. So now I have here, if I want to add the labels, so technically this is a single information, right? So I did not add the hue here, so I can just plot the bar label as it is. But here in this case, it will be multiple containers. So these are individual containers for me. So in this, I have to pass it in form of a for loop, right? So for each of my individual containers, I have to pass the exact label. So just a smaller change. So instead of passing it as a single, I would say bar label, I'm going to pass it on top of my for loop. So which is giving it for all the containers, right? So I have just plotted it here for you. Cool, making sense for you guys? Any questions? So we have discussed about bar plot, we discussed about count plot. The last set of plot which is available in this section is basically your point plot. Okay. So point plot भी थोड़ा interesting plot है, इसमें थोड़ा सा time देंगे. Anybody has any questions so far? Thank you so much, Career Hunt. Cool. So I think हमने अभी तक क्या पढ़ा, मेजरली रिकैप कर लेते हैं. हमने पढ़ा यूनिवेरिएट एनालिसिस एंड बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस. यूनिवेरिएट में हमने पढ़ा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन प्लॉट, डिस्क प्लॉट, हिस प्लॉट भी कह सकते हो. एंड उसके बाद वी डिस्कस अबाउट बाइवेरिएट एनालिसिस. बाइवेरिएट में मेजरली वी हैव टू डिफरेंट क्लासेस, टू डिफरेंट ग्रुप्स. First group is numeric to numeric plot. Second group is numeric to categorical plot. Okay. So in the numeric to numeric, we discuss about joint plot, जिसमें हम both univariate and bivariate का ग्राफ देखते हैं. Joint plot के अंदर ही आपके पास hex bin भी है, KDE भी है. And then we discuss about what? We discuss about only the bivariate analysis number to number, which is rel plot, relation plot, जिसमें हम scatter plot भी कर सकते हैं, line plot भी कर सकते हैं. Correct? ये आपका दो तरीके का प्लॉट हो गया जिसमें नंबर टू नंबर है. देन इसके बाद कैटेगोरिकल टू नंबर्स में हमने क्या क्या पढ़ा? हमने पढ़ा स्ट्रिप प्लॉट, हमने पढ़ा स्टॉर्म प्लॉट, उसके बाद हमने पढ़ा बॉक्स प्लॉट, वायलिन प्लॉट, राइट. एंड देन वी कम अबाउट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में हमने देखा स्टैटिस्टिकल ऑब्जर्वेशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में हमारे पास ऑप्शंस थे बार प्लॉट, काउंट प्लॉट एंड द लास्ट इज पॉइंट प्लॉट. ओके, सो अगेन अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग प्लॉट गाइस. पॉइंट प्लॉट, इसमें देखो क्या होता है, बार प्लॉट में आपके पास इंडिविजुअल और काउंट प्लॉट में इंडिविजुअल जो आपके कैटेगोरिकल डेटा हैं उसका इंडिविजुअल रिप्रेजेंटेशन हो रहा है इसके काउंट का, रफली काउंट का, राइट. इसके कैसे स्प्रेड आउट है डेटा, करेक्ट. पॉइंट प्लॉट में क्या करता है, उसी एक जो उसका ऑब्जर्वेशन है ना उसका कंपैरेटिव एनालिसिस करता है वो. सो बेसिकली कैन यू सी दिस, for each of the individual categories at the end it is actually joining a line, it is giving you a very pinpointed comparison. क्या वो इंक्रीज हो रहा है, दूसरी कैटेगरी में डिक्रीज हो रहा है, सेम है, क्या है. सो अगर आपको कंपैरिजन करना है बिटवीन डिफरेंट क्लासेस फॉर द सेम न्यूमेरिक डेटा, देन यू हैव टू यूज अ पॉइंट प्लॉट. सो इसका मेजर फंक्शन क्या होता है गाइस, कंपैरिजन करने में काम आता है बिटवीन डिफरेंट लेवल्स. इसका ये मेजर पर्पस है. It is more useful than bar plots for focusing comparison between different levels. इसका एक major objective point plot का ये है. So again guys, मैंने आपको इतने सारे ग्राफ्स दिखाए, उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव सिर्फ यही है कि आपको उसमें पहले समझना पड़ेगा कि आप करना क्या चाहते हो. What is your end objective from seeing these graphs? Okay, if you want to have to just see the distribution, आप मे बी कोई और ग्राफ चुन सकते हो. If you want to see the comparison between two different classes, then point plot could be useful. So आपके ऑब्जेक्टिव के हिसाब से you have to choose the right graph for you. And if you ask me this question, I don't know which graph to choose, how can I do that? So वो practice के through ही आएगा. So more graph you plot, more data you see, right? More comfortable you will become. Clear? Cool. So now look at this. So I have plotted this point plot. Okay. So in this point plot, I have X, which is my sex, which is my gender, male and female. And in the Y, we have survived. Okay. So survived, which is there on the Y axis. And now I have hue. So I have the class here. So I'm giving 3 different lines here. So basically, granularity, I'm giving it as class. So I want to see the first, second, and the third class का क्या distribution है for the survived compared from male to female. Now can you see this? So there are 2 interesting observations here, guys. Mark my words. Listen to me carefully. There are 2 interesting observation. First, तो आप इसमें देख रहोगे एक circular box बीच में बन रहा है, right? तो एक ये circular box similarly male में है, and the second is there on the female also. Okay? So ये जो line है वो it is connecting this circular dots. Okay, so this is your circular dot का connection. The second also which you're seeing is there is a perpendicular line also. Okay, there is a perpendicular line on top and bottom of my this circular dot. So this line is nothing but my confidence interval. अभी confidence interval मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया हुआ है, it's nothing but my error. Okay, the range of my error. It defines that how confident I am that the value of the survived male, for example, in this case, will lie at a particular region. For example, here I'm saying that the upper is somewhere around say 0.45 and the lower is somewhere around 0.3. So this says that my density of my observation here is 0.3 to 0.45 and for male, and the central location is somewhere around 0.38. And now this is getting connected to my female, which is very high and the range is very low. So it is very confidently saying that the density of my female survived were somewhere around 0.95. My God, almost all the females survived on the first class, right? This is the observation here. Okay, so comparative analysis यहाँ पर हो रहा है. What if the 2 lines overlap? तो 2 lines मतलब आप क्या कहना चाह रहे हो? On the multiple, just a question to your honor. You're talking about 2 lines on the multiple classes or the same class. So multiple classes में तो definitely हो सकता है, आपको दिख भी रहा है, overlap कर रहा है. So for the second and third, you can see for the male is overlapping. So it's totally fine. It's fine because if we talk about second class, so the range is from 0.05 to 0.2, and for third class is 0.05 to 0.1 maybe, right? Yes, it could overlap. It's not a problem. So that overlapping is still, I would say, it's valid for individual classes. Does not really matter. For example, suppose जैसे आप billing tip वाला information देख लो ना, for multiple class. हाँ, मल्टीपल क्लास को तो मैंने आपको शायद एक्सप्लेन कर ही दिया, बट अगेन इफ यू हैव नॉट अंडरस्टूड इट, डू लेट मी नो इन द चैट. आई विल ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन इट अगेन. आई विल जस्ट गिव यू अनदर एग्जांपल. फॉर एग्जांपल, सपोज आप बिल रेंज का देख रहे थे ना, टिप एंड बिल का, करेक्ट? सो आई हैव 2 क्लासेस, मेल एंड फीमेल, राइट? सो मेल एंड फीमेल, they are giving the bills. So on Saturdays we observed that the confidence interval for males is somewhere around, for the tip is somewhere around 15 to 20, but for the females is somewhere around 12 to 16. So again there is an overlap of 15 to 16, right? So it's fine. Anyway, these 2 classes are independent, right? These 2 classes are ultimately independent. So it can have the 2 overlapping ranges, does not really matter. So it's not going to impact my data anyway. So we are going to first of all see this individual trend and the combined trend. So combined here, I'm comparing it with the central location of my, I mean the mean of my, the exact mean of my data. I'm not looking at the individual confidence interval here. So for the confidence interval, it's the static information of that particular male itself. It's not a comparative analysis. But for the comparative analysis, I'm using the central point of my graph. So to compare. Yeah, individually, this point also has a confidence interval. This is an additional information. Clear? Cool. That's how it is. So that's again a very interesting point, guys. Very interesting plot. So I have a point plot here. So again, you can do it like n number of things. So here I have only 2 classes, male and female, but I have again here 4 classes: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And can you see this? So this is how my tips are behaving. So generally, tips has a slight dip on Friday and then increase on Saturdays and Sundays, but also the error range is quite high on Friday, so it can still vary from say 2 point somewhere around 2.3 to 3.2. Error is quite high, right? So likewise, this is how this is a very good comparative analysis plot, guys. So on the other graphs, you have to actually visualize and then assume. You have to infer from the graph, but this graph is showing you the exact trend which you want to compare, right? So sometimes point plot actually becomes very, very, very important, guys. Very important. Okay, so I can still have n number of different arguments available here. So as you can see, just by shift tab, so you can see we have order, we have data, we have hue order also given. I have confidence interval as 95. I can change it to 99 also, totally fine. So markers, instead of dot, I can this central dot I can give say line or something like that. So line style also you can change. So multiple options, guys. Color, orient. I mean, you can just keep on trying. Okay, so there are multiple options available. So for each, that's the beauty of Seaborn, right? So you have like n number of options available here. You can just keep on trying. You can make your graph more beautiful, right? So more interactive, more number of more observation, more I would say data points available in the same graph. So that is totally possible. That's the beauty of Seaborn. Cool. Any questions, guys? I think we can wrap up for the day. So the last set of questions left, factor plot, and I guess at the last we have heat map also coming up. Yeah, cool. So I have prepared the content for other set of graphs also. So we can take it. So I'm gonna stop it right now at point plot. But now, guys, because we have been doing it this Seaborn for quite some time, so I'm gonna take it a break for 2-3 days. So just for your information, so from tomorrow for the next 2 days, we are doing I would say a master class for data science. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a basic introduction towards artificial intelligence, towards machine learning. So what are the major jargons we have in AI/ML space? Okay, so I'm not gonna run through any of the algorithms as of now. That I'll take it one by one as the time comes, right? But for the next 2 days, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, so we're gonna have the master class on AI/ML. Okay, so please do not forget to join tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So anyway, guys, I'll come back to the Seaborn post that. So post the 2 days of our master class on AI/ML. Okay. So I'll come back to Seaborn and I'll finish it. So don't worry, I'm gonna finish that. And somebody asked me, I think Wamsi, that about the NumPy. So I'm gonna finish that also in the next week. So we're gonna take care of that accordingly. But for the next 2 days, I'm gonna be talking about the data science AI/ML. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much, Vamsi, for your nice words. No problem at all. I understand it's not possible for everyone to join the live classes, but as an if you have a time and I'm helping you out in either ways, that's totally I would say my pleasure on that. Okay. So, but anyway, as I've said, I've promised, so I'll be finishing your NumPy tutorial also next week. I'll do that. Cool. But again, guys, do not forget, if you guys have time, I would really urge you to join tomorrow and day after tomorrow class, guys. So we'll be talking about data science, AI/ML stuff. So I'll just give you introduction to AI/ML space. I'll just clear out few of the jargons queries. So let's join for tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's class, okay? And as I've said, so I'll come back to Seaborn post that. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Anybody has any questions, we can spend maybe 2 more minutes and I can take any questions you have. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you so much, Kariran. Thank you so much, Mamsi. I hope this is making sense to you guys, right? So I'm trying to make it very simpler. So I'm trying to repeat it again and again. Only thing is because I was a student at some point, or even I'm a student right now, but still I believe that I was in your learning phase in some point of time, so I understand what people think, right? So I believe in this case, guys, if I keep on repeating, right, I'm pretty sure you'll understand it at one day. I'm 100% sure of that. But if I just leave it and I move to the next topic very next day, right, you'll forget about the last topic. I'm sure of that. That happens. It's a very normal human tendency. Okay, so do not worry about it. It's a very normal human tendency. So that is the only reason I just keep on talking and repeating the things again and again. So for me, it's so I understand it's sometimes it gets repeated, but again, it's important for you that you understand what we are trying to learn here. Okay, so you should be benefited at the end. Cool. So I think we are done with our day, and I hope I'm able to help you out, guys, in some or the other way. So let's connect tomorrow again, the same time, 9 p.m. as I've said. So we'll be talking about data science, AI/ML space. So I'll give you a quick introduction towards that area, and then let's see so how it goes, so we can prepare the content accordingly. But again, as promised, I'll come back to Seaborn on Friday, and we're going to finish that Seaborn quickly in another next 2 days maybe, and we'll do that. Cool. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for such a good participant, and thank you so much for putting up your questions. So see you tomorrow. Till then, stay safe and have a good night. Bye bye.